VORs are going away.
So now you see we have a from indication.
And GPS is everywhere.
We can do a couple things. We can go nearest. Alright. And we can go to airport.
So why do so many student pilots fail check rides due to VORs? It's often associated with the wrong mindset during the training, sometimes brought on by their own CFIs. The VORs are not that important. The DP will quickly notice during a check ride if you don't know how to use a VOR. And so if you've been ignoring VORs during your training, think again. Otherwise, it may cost you your check ride. Hi, I'm Mark Donovan, and today I'm going to go over the 3 key mistakes I see associated with VORs, and more importantly, how to use a VOR to navigate. We'll go over understanding how to find out what radial you're on and how to fly to a bearing to the VOR. But before I get into that, let me just mention that I have a private pilot practical test check ride guide that I put out that's based on my thousands of hours of flight instruction given to students that I use with my current students and future students, and that I think that you may benefit that are listening to this video. So I'll leave a link in the description below if you're interested in that. And now without further ado, let's get into the 3 mistakes associated with using VORs and how you should properly use them. Yes, the FAA is in the process of phasing out a lot of VORs, approximately about a third of them by 2030. However, there's still going to be approximately 500 to 600 VORs still in place as part of something called a minimum operating network. And the purpose of that is so the event we have GPS outages, aircraft will still be able to navigate using VORs. So having a mindset that you don't need to know about VORs, they're not important, flying an aircraft is the wrong attitude, wrong mindset. And you will fail a check ride if you don't know how to use a VOR. So I want to make sure we get that straight. So now let's get into the 3 major reasons or major mistakes I see students make when it comes to using and demonstrating VORs, particularly during their check ride. The first mistake is just a lack of understanding of VORs and how they work. And in particular, about what a radial is, what a bearing is, what a to-from flag is, what a CDI is, and how do you tune in a nav radio, where you can even find the VOR frequency, how do you listen for it. When a DP asks questions associated with that and he sees a blank stare coming back at him, that's a sure sign that you're on a path for a failed check ride. The number 2 mistake is when you're actually in the airplane during the check ride and the DP says, let's divert to a local VOR, and expects you to tune in the local frequency for that VOR, listen to it, find out what bearing you need to go to fly to it, and the students just starts fumbling around, pushing buttons, twisting buttons, matching the wrong nav radio to the wrong CDI or HSI. Again, that's a sure sign that the check ride is going south and you're probably going to fail. And then the third situation I see is where when in the aircraft, the DPE asks them to fly me to a particular VOR, and the student decides to use the GPS nav system to basically select the particular VOR and fly a magenta line to the VOR. That's not going to cut it. The DPE is asking the student at that point to use the VOR navigation tools to get to the VOR, not the GPS. So often there's just too much of a GPS dependency that comes up during the check ride, and the DPE will absolutely frown upon you using the GPS as a tool to get to the VOR versus you demonstrating that you know how to use the nav radio, the CDI, or the HSI to tune in to find out what radio you're on, and then how to fly to a bearing toward that VOR. So I just want to be clear, from the DP's perspective, this isn't about whether or not you can use a VOR, but when things go south and you lose, let's say, your GPS, that you have the skill set to navigate safely to an airport. And VORs are just part of the equation of making sure that you're a safe pilot and a skilled pilot, that you can navigate an aircraft correctly. All right, so I'm going to show you now how to use a VOR. And I'm going to show it using one of my students as well as myself in the cockpit. And we're going to show you how to tune in the VOR, listen to the VOR, find out what radio that you're on, and then rotating the CDI or HSI 180 degrees and then flying a bearing to the VOR.
If I asked you to fly me to the Concord VOR using VORs on this radio, can you do that for me?
On this one?
Yep.
Yeah, do you know the frequency?
It's
112.9.
Echo, downwind runway 17 again.
Oh, it's in there. Okay, good.
What's the next thing you do? That's not working it. That's not doing
Oh,
it.
no, go here.
One more thing you have to do. You've dialed in the frequency, but
Oh, you gotta tune it, yep.
Let's hear it. All right.
There you go.
All right. And what else are we going to do now? How are we going to get there now?
And you want to fly the reciprocal.
And I got traffic.
Do you?
No, because you're flying to it.
This
The
case, you
arrow's
got
going
the-
that way, so you
That's
want to
right.
fly heading up 222
Okay.
to get to the Concord VOR.
And how about this guy here?
Let me do it in here.
Yep.
So that said, we listened to it already. We'll do the same thing here. So now you see we have a from indication. So once we get it lined up, we then fly the reciprocal. We turn 180 degrees
southwest of the field. 6,000.
to there's 210 to about 222, and we're going to fly that.
Correct.
So you fly, if you get the from, you fly reciprocal. If it's 2, you fly to it.
Echo, turning base runway 17
So
again.
are we right or left of the course right now?
We are the chorus. We are left of the chorus.
No.
The course is off to our right.
No, the course is off to our left here. We're the ball. The course is off to our left. So if we want to,
Oh, that's right, that's right, that's right.
237 is 11
So you
miles
are right of
shooting
course
north
at the moment.
inbound straight
You're right,
at
of course,
20
you need to go to the left.
correct. Okay.
Okay, the first thing we want to do is tune in the VOR frequency on the Bendix King KX155 radio. Then we want to hit the nav1 button to receive and listen for the Morse code identifier for that particular VOR that we've tuned in. Now we're going to go over to the GTN 650, hit the nav button to bring up the nav radios, and we're going to tune in that nav radio frequency, and again, listen to the VOR Morse code identifier by hitting the nav1 button up on the audio panel. Now we're going to tap the default nav button on the GTN 650 to put the HSI CDI indicator into VOR mode versus the normal GPS mode. Now that we've tuned in and identified the VOR Morse code and we have active VOR frequency tuned in, we're going to spin the OBS knob on the CDI instrument until we get the vertical line to center up with the ball, and this will basically tell us what radio we're currently flying over. We'll then do the same thing on the HSI. We'll push the button on the HSI, spin it over to the course indicator, and then we will spin that knob until we get the lines to all line up. You should see one arrow pointing toward the course, the other arrow pointing away from it. This tells us we've got a from indication. So again, this is the radio that we're flying over here, identified by the CDI. Now if I spin the knob 180 degrees, I'll fly the reciprocal course bearing to the VOR. So once I've put in that reciprocal heading, I will actually turn my plane to a heading that is lined up with the CDI. I may have to fly at a slightly different angle to intercept the course, but once I'm on the course, I can stay on the proper heading other than correcting for wind to fly to the VOR. Okay, now we are pretty much on a heading that's matching the CDI indicator, and we're now flying to the VOR. We may have to correct for wind, so I have a slightly different heading angle to correct for wind, but our goal is to keep that course needle lined up. Here I'm now spinning the HSI knob until the line centers with the arrows pointing in the same direction to show a 2 indication. And once those lines are lined up and the 2 arrows are pointing in the same direction, that is my bearing to the VOR. And again, we're just going to keep the CDI needles and arrows lined up and centered. And if we do that, we'll continue to fly to the VOR. And it's that easy for VOR navigation. So that's how you use a VOR. And again, yes, many VORs are going away in the not too distant future, but not all of them. And certainly they're going to be on your check ride. So if you ignore them, it may cost you. So I highly advise that if you're not skilled enough using the VORs, go get a little bit more skill in it. If you want more information on how to use a VOR, I've got several videos on how to use VORs. Watch those full videos. I just showed you short clips of them, and it'll provide additional assistance on how to properly use VORs and how to find where you are relative to a VOR. Anyways, before I leave, just want to refresh that I do have that private pilot check ride test prep guide that's available. If you have a check ride coming up, make sure to check it out. Also, if you have any questions or comments on this video, leave them below and I'll try to get to them. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you get notified on my next video.
Well, I got some exciting news here. I am wearing a new set of sunglasses from Flying Eyes. I've been wearing off and on a pair of aviator sunglasses that I got in the 70s when my father was stationed at Andrews Air Force Base, and they were heavy, thick on the sides here, and they didn't make a very good seal with the headset. And they're also polarized, so it made it really tough to see screens like G1000 or Garmin G5 like I have here. And so when Flying Eyes reached out to me and said, hey, would you like to have a pair, give them a shot? I said, absolutely. And I've been wearing them now for a couple flights now, and they are phenomenal. Extremely lightweight. After a 2-hour flight yesterday, absolutely didn't even realize I had them on when I took them off later on. In regards to the sides here, they're extremely thin. You can see that they're probably just a millimeter, a couple millimeters thick at the most, and they slide on very easy when I've got my headset on. So, and looking outside, just absolutely great views and lots of ultraviolet protection, and they're non-polarized, so I get a nice sharp image when I'm looking down at my Garmin G5 here. Anyways, if you're interested in getting a pair of these Flying Eyes sunglasses, I'll leave a link in the description below along with a discount code so you can get a little bit of savings if you decide to buy them.